What is up, athletes of all types? Phoenix Info back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to talk about how to make your bulk in 2019 and 2020 worth it. Now, this is going to be a long video and it is a little bit different than usual. I did a lot of research on this topic for you guys, so buckle up for all of this information and get ready to learn something new. So starting off with, what is your idea of bulking? Let's take a few moments to think about how you would approach bulking. Now that we thought about how you would approach bulking, let's get into how the real idea of bulking has been misconstrued and what the real idea is. So we're going to talk about what I've seen works and what I've seen does not work. Many people use bulking season as an excuse to eat foods that are going to stunt progress. For example, with this fourth quarter coming, we got Thanksgiving coming, we got Halloween coming, and we got Christmas coming. With all of this going on, we got a lot of food involved. We got high proportions, high sugars, high fats, and this is all going to stunt your progress when you're doing your bulk season, and this is the wrong way to do it. What you want to do during your bulk season is to ignore all of that and eat your foods in the correct proportions, in the correct fat amounts, and the correct sugar amounts. And we're going to get into more detail throughout this video on how to do that. Now, it has become a social norm, to splurge on junk food during this time. Now, because it is a holiday, a lot of people are eating together, so you feel kind of the need to eat the same way as your friends are eating. But guess what? You're an athlete. That friend might not be an athlete, and you have to maintain all of the hard work that you did. You progressed a lot to that point, and to just lose it, that's kind of a waste of your time, right? So why are you going to work out if you're just going to eat and not even keep track of what you've been doing? Now, moving on to the next idea, I want to let you guys know that you use this time as an opportunity to eat lots of protein. Now, what you want to do is you want to gain your fats from lots of protein and not from lots of fats and sugars. So what the recommendations are for endurance athletes and for strength athletes: endurance athletes, it's 1.2 to 1.4 grams per kilogram of body weight. Strength athletes must consume 1.2 to 1.7 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Now, you guys want to stick to the highest amount in the interval. So if you're an endurance athlete, have 1.4 grams of protein. If you're a strength athlete, have 1.7 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And this way, you know you're getting all of the materials that your muscles need to repair, and that way they grow as much as possible. Moving on to the next idea, you want to switch to foods that are identical to a specific craving. For example, if you get a craving for donuts, you're going to want to have a bagel instead that's whole wheat. And what this does is it's actually going to contribute to your satiety for that donut, because the bagel is an identical food and you're going to get satisfied from that. So it's going to remove that opportunity where you would have had a donut. And for example, if you have sodas, I would suggest that you guys replace that with juice, or you replace that with SodaStream, which is a lot more healthy than eating soda because it has so much sugar. Your body is going to store all of that into fat. Now, moving on to the next slide, we're going to talk about the advantages for specific body types. Now, these specific body types are the ectomorphs, the mesomorphs, and the endomorphs. Now, if you're an ectomorph, you're classified by having a skinny body, you're classified by being tall, or being short and slim. If you're an ectomorph, you're known as a hard gainer. If you're a hard gainer, you have a hard time gaining weight. And if you know one of those friends, or if that is you, you could eat whatever you want. You could have a whole pizza and not gain a single pound from it. Whereas endomorphs, they pass by a donut shop and smell the fumes and gain like 5 pounds. Moving on to mesomorphs. Mesomorphs are classified by having athletic bodies. These people are super lucky to have their athletic bodies already, because if you want to gain weight, it's super easy because you're in the middle. If you want to lose weight and become really slim, super easy again because they're right in the middle. And with these people, they could really be whatever they want, and they're kind of like a wild card. Now, with endomorphs, you're classified by having a very thick disposition. So you have a thick rib cage, thick arms, thick bones. That's kind of what they call endomorphs, the thick boned. And when you're an endomorph, you gain weight very easily. And if you're trying to lose weight, it takes a lot of work to try to lose that weight. And we will get into the workouts and how to do your diets a little bit more specifically for these types of people. Now, with your diet, you're going to want to utilize the caloric expenditure calculator. I found this resource to be very helpful for me when I'm calculating how much calories I should be having, because it lets you know how much protein you should have, it lets you know how much carbs you have, it lets you know how much fats you have. And this is super useful for you guys if you're trying to reach specific goals a lot faster. And keep in mind, when you're using this calculator, it's going to ask you for your weight, it's going to ask you for your height, it's going to ask you for your level of activity. So if you have a job that's super busy, it's going to accommodate for the busyness by giving you more calories to supply. And so keep in mind that you need a caloric surplus of 500 if you're trying to gain weight. If you're trying to lose weight safely, go on a caloric deficit of 500. Or if you want to maintain the weight, stick to your daily recommended caloric intake. Now, I want to talk about some fad diets. One of these common fad diets are the keto diets. And in my opinion, I think the keto diet is a complete waste of time. And the main reason why the keto diet is a waste of time is because your body has fat cells, and these fat cells have memory in them. So let's say you're a big person, right? And you have a lot of fat in you. These fat cells are used to being at a specific size. So when you lose weight for a few months in the keto diet, once you get back into a normal diet, your body's going to revert back to the way they were, back to the way it was, because your fat cells are going to want to go back to the same size that they were in. If you are an ectomorph, you're going to want to eat a lot more and eat healthy foods. Don't eat foods that are high in fats and sugars like I was saying earlier. You're going to want to have healthy food that is clean. You're going to want to have your greens. You're going to want to have your proteins, carbs. Have that from healthy sources, right? You're not going to want to get your proteins from pizza or foods like that. Keep in mind, guys, to eat clean during your bulking season, because your body is going to thank you and it's going to show largely on your progress. Now, moving on to the next slide, let's talk about workout strategies and how they relate to specific body types. Now, if you're an ectomorph and you're trying to gain weight, you're going to want to do hypertrophy type workouts. So this includes 6 to 12 repetitions with 30 seconds to 1 minute rests in between. And with hypertrophy training, if you are a beginner, you're going to want to do 2 or 3 workouts per muscle. And if you're a more advanced athlete, you could include supersets, you could include pyramid sets. Even if you're a beginner, you could include pyramid sets, but I don't condone doing drop sets. If you're an ectomorph, yes, do a lot of hypertrophy training. Avoid endurance because it's going to slim you down. You could do some sort of strength training in your regimen if you want as an ectomorph. Now, if you're an endomorph, it really depends on your goals. If you want to be a bodybuilder, you go for hypertrophy training. If you want to do endurance, you do endurance training. Now, let's move on to endomorphs. If you're an endomorph, your goal is to lose weight, right? And to lose your weight a lot faster, we will get into this with the next slide, but you're going to want to do cardio. And with your workout strategy, you're going to want to do a lot of endurance type workouts. Because you do have a little bit more weight on your body, you're going to want to perform regressions. So regressions, I mean by if you're going to do a push-up, do push-ups on your knees. That way you could do more reps. And you're going to want to do circuit style training. So by circuit style training, I mean if you have a 5 workout training regimen for the day, perform those with as least rest as possible. So if you have push-ups, pull-ups, squats, whatever it is, take as least breaks as possible to get your heart rate going, because the whole goal of circuit training is to keep your heart rate elevated, and when your heart rate is elevated, your body is going to burn more fat during that time. And let's talk about hypertrophy, endurance, strength, and explosive training more in a general sense relating to that, not as it relates to body types. So with hypertrophy training, you guys want to stick to 6 to 12 repetitions, 30 seconds to 1 minute breaks. If you are a bodybuilder, this is the most ideal way to work out for you. If you're an endurance athlete, perform 12 to 20 repetitions. And what I've seen with a lot of endurance athletes is if you perform more than 20 repetitions, it often leads to pattern overload. And what pattern overload is essentially is overtraining. So if you're moving a joint in a certain way for a prolonged period amount of time, this is going to create fatigue and it could eventually lead to injury. So a lot of people are going to say, go for really high reps, go above 20, do as much as you can. But what this does, again, like I was saying, is pattern overload, and you want to avoid that because you don't want to get injured and, ruin your progress. So what I suggest is, if you guys are going above that 20 rep mark, to increase the intensity. By intensity, I mean you could try wearing a weighted vest. You could try a weighted belt. And these weighted belts are a little bit different than lifting belts. Weighted belts have chains on them, that way you could put plates on them to increase intensity, whereas with lifting belts, they support your back, your lumbar area when you're doing squats. So yeah, increase the intensity by increasing the weight, or you can increase the variations, or I mean change the variations. So if you normally do pull-ups on a straight horizontal bar, try changing the angle in which you pull up. So try it with a slanted bar. Try doing grip push-ups, or I mean grip pull-ups, and try doing it that way. So increase variation in your workouts to keep your muscles stimulated and guessing themselves as to what you're gonna bring to them next, because you want to confuse your muscles and keep them doing new things. Now moving on to cardio, as I was saying earlier, you're going to want to do a lot of cardio. And this statistic that I have for you guys is by the World Health Organization, or WHO, and they recommend that you guys have 150 minutes of moderate aerobic exercise or 75 minutes of vigorous activity each week. And I do suggest that you guys stick to these guidelines because they have a lot of benefits to them. If you have insomnia, it does help with your sleep a lot. If you have trouble losing weight, cardio obviously is going to help you lose the weight. If you have hypertension, running is really beneficial when it comes to lowering your blood pressure. And what this does is cardio does lots of wonders for your body. It has a lot of benefits. So I really suggest that you guys stick to your cardio regimen, and especially if you've been doing cardio during your cutting season, stopping at your bulking season is actually going to be not so beneficial for you. It has its adverse health effects, and it's actually more adversely affecting if you've been doing cardio and you just stop. And continuing that cycle could, have some sort of adverse effects, as I was saying. So yeah, keep doing your cardio, guys. I would suggest that you guys do it at least twice a week, to do at least 1 mile or 2 miles a day. Find some time out of your day. If you're too busy, well, you got to make time for it, because you always have time for something. You just have to make the time for it. And finishing off this video, thank you guys so much for watching it. I really put in a lot of effort to this video for you guys to watch. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for listening. Please comment, like, share, and subscribe, and goodbye.